I want us this morning to look at a common theme that we find in the gospel accounts of the birth of Christ and also in some of the memorable Christmas literature with which we're familiar. A common theme that we find in the gospel presentation of the birth of Christ and in some of the noted Christmas literature. And that is, those who encounter the Christ or those who discover the true meaning of Christmas are never the same. Those who encounter the Christ or those who discover the true meaning of Christmas can never be the same. Let's start with the shepherds. You know that story. The angel chorus appears to the shepherds as they're tending the flock, announces to them the birth of the Messiah. They rush off to Bethlehem, find baby Jesus and Mary and Joseph there, and they, from Luke's account, then go forth and tell everyone about this birth. Luke writes, when they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. You have to understand something about shepherds. Shepherds in that day and time were a despised class, which made them quite antisocial. So here are these antisocial, private individuals who go to the Bethlehem, see the baby in the manger, and then immediately, out of character with themselves, go forth and tell everybody they've seen the Christ. Or take the wise men. You know that story as well. Magi, Persian astrologers, the wise men. They go to seek the Christ child. They follow a star. They find the Messiah in Bethlehem. They present their gifts to Him. And then Matthew records in the second chapter of his gospel that they return to their country by another route. Now, biblical scholars tell us there's something interesting about those words in Matthew 2. They return to their country by another route, and that is that there's a double meaning here. The writer of the Gospel of Matthew, biblical scholars say, literally is telling us that the wise men, the Magi, the Persian astrologers, really did return to their homeland by a different route. But they also tell us that Matthew intended to say to us that those wise men went a different spiritual path. They were not the same. Those shepherds who heard the angel chorus, who went to Bethlehem and saw that Christ child, would never be the same. Those wise men who came from Persia and brought their gifts to the Christ child in Bethlehem went by a different route. They would never be the same. And then when you look at some of the memorable Christmas literature, we find the same thing. Those who discover the true meaning of Christmas can never be the same. Remember Ebenezer Scrooge? You know his story. You know how conniving he was. You also know that he had visits from the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas to come, and in that he is transformed. And Charles Dickens writes about Scrooge, Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, he was a second father. He became as good a friend and as good a man as the old city knew. Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh. His own heart laughed, and it was always said of them that he then knew how to keep Christmas well. Or how about the Grinch? Theodore Geisel, Dr. Seuss's The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. You know that character, and you also know about his transformation. Dr. Seuss wrote, and the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. You cannot encounter the Christ and remain the same. You cannot know the true meaning of Christmas and remain the same. I don't know if you know the name Irma Bombeck, and I'm sure you do, the noted columnist and humorist who died in 1996, one of the funniest writers that I've ever read. Some wonderful pieces. Let me just share some with you. Sometimes I can't figure designers out. It's as if they flunked human anatomy. When a child is locked in the bathroom with water running, and he says he's doing nothing but the dog is barking, call 911. I love this one. Apologies to our physicians. Never go to a doctor whose office plants have died. And our homemakers will appreciate this one. Cleanliness is not next to godliness. It isn't even in the same neighborhood. No one has ever gotten a religious experience out of removing burned out cheese from the grill of the toaster oven. Or she wrote, in 2 decades, I've lost a total of 789 pounds. I should be hanging from a charm bracelet. And for all our parents, insanity is hereditary. You can catch it from your kids. But she could also be quite poignant. And about Christmas Day, Irma Bombeck said this, I try to get a handle on what this day is all about, but it's a fantasy that I know will end at midnight. Then Christmas will shed its cloak of magic and turn to reality. People who brought toys to children will no longer care. People who fed the poor will disappear. Carolers to the aged will fade from sight. Stories of caring and sharing will vanish. Bells will stop ringing. Lights will no longer shimmer as a beacon of hope, and we will go back to things as they were. But who is right? Is Luke right that you can't encounter the Christ and remain the same? Is the writer of the Gospel of Matthew right that you can't encounter the Christ and remain the same? Is Charles Dickens right that once you know the true meaning of Christmas, you cannot be the same person? Is Theodore Geisel right that when you know the true meaning of Christmas, you cannot remain as you are? Or is Irma Bombeck right that once all this singing is over today, and once we take down the decorations, and once we clean out our homes, we'll return to things just as they were? Well, you know the answer to that question. It depends on you, and it depends on me. Whether or not Christmas 2011 is a transformation in your life or in mine has everything to do with you and with me. We are the ones this Christmas 2011 who determine whether all that we've been through on this journey to Bethlehem has changed our lives or not. I want to leave you with 3 questions. Will you let this Christmas 2011 be the beginning of a renewed journey to come closer to this Jesus? Are you ready to sincerely and faithfully follow Him? Will you devote yourself to knowing more about Him and to living like Him? Only you can answer those questions for yourself, and only I can answer them for myself. But our answers have everything to do with whether or not this is really Christmas. Thanks be to God. Amen.
In the time of King Herod,